My family is military. My dad serves, and we've been to all sorts of military towns. Once, Dad's service brought us to a settlement where we were given a service apartment. We moved there in late August 2010. When we arrived at the apartment, it was completely empty. It's a 2-bedroom. We started settling in. A month later, I began to notice something strange happening in the apartment. Footsteps could be heard, as if someone was walking down the corridor. Dishes would rattle by themselves, and so on. One night, I woke up to a crash in the bathroom, but I was too scared to go there. Dad rushed out and told Mom that the mirror in the bathroom had fallen. We didn't think much of it, even though the mirror was securely attached to the wall. A week passed after that incident. I was already going to school and hanging out with local youth. My friend and classmate Alex lived on the floor above us. I asked many people, including him, about this apartment, but either they didn't know or didn't want to tell me. In November, I was home alone. I was already getting ready to go to sleep when I heard the pitter-patter of little feet in the hallway. I paled and froze on the couch. Everything stopped for a few minutes, but suddenly the front doors, we have two, opened with a wild noise. It couldn't have been a draft, as the doors were tightly closed. What the hell? I thought at that moment. I sat down, turned on the TV, and fell asleep. I woke up to someone stroking my head. I jumped up. No one was there. I panicked and called Alex, and he came over to see what was going on. I rushed at him, shouting, "Alex! I can't take it anymore. Calm down. What happened? I can't take it anymore. I am scared. Did someone hurt you?" "No." "Then what happened?" I told him everything as it was. He said I was tired and went past my room to the kitchen. He came back with tea and said, "Didn't you say you had a cat?" "What cat? We don't have a cat." "Then who was making noise in your room?" He was stunned and ran to my room. I followed him. The door to my room was closed, but when we opened it, we were shocked. The room was turned upside down. Things were scattered in all corners. My laptop was lying broken in two. Half of the wallpapers we had recently put up were torn off. Wow, that's all Alex could say at that moment. I called my parents and told them what had happened. I spent that night at Alex's apartment, as it was a day off, and there was nowhere to go in the morning. Besides his younger brother Kolia, there was no one at home either, as his parents had left for the city the day before. The night was fun. We played computer games, watched TV, and laughed. Of course, we couldn't sleep. The next day, my parents came, and we started to clean up the mess. In it, I found a charred doll that clearly wasn't mine. Everything quieted down for a while. In October 2011, everything started over again. I am sleeping at night and hear sobbing and whimpering. I wake up. I see someone sitting in the dark corner of the room. I decided it was my younger sister Marina, and so I asked, "Marisha, why aren't you sleeping?" Then out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that Marina is asleep on the bed. I turn my head towards the bed to make sure it's true. I turn my head back. No one is there. I fell asleep, although not immediately. I dreamed that a girl was sitting on rusty swings and reading poems. I don't remember everything, but I remember that the words fire, screams, soul were mentioned. I didn't take this dream seriously. The next day, around 5:30 p.m., in the neighboring house on the 5th floor, my acquaintance's apartment caught fire. Fortunately, no one was killed, but the expensive repairs had to be started over. It's already April. Dad's contract is supposed to end in May, and we'll move from here. I can't wait. The story happened to me about 5 years ago. At that time, my husband and I had just moved out from our parents' house and were living in an apartment that used to be rented out by my mom's brother. And after his death, since he had no relatives, it was handed over to my parents. Those who rent out one-bedroom apartments in poor areas know what tenants can turn them into. So, we arrived at a thoroughly smoked apartment, the only piece of furniture in which was a dirty couch, from which cockroaches would come pouring out at the slightest pressure. We successfully got rid of the junk, scraped off and repasted all the wallpaper, and bought furniture. It's always nice to have your own place, even if it's just a one-bedroom, the size of a dog kennel. Life was good, but in the evenings, a sweet, suffocating smell would start rising from the corner where the old couch used to be. Now, our new couch stood in that spot, with a wardrobe across from it covering the entire wall with mirrored doors. A couple of months later, I found out that I was pregnant. Soon, there was an opportunity to move to a larger apartment in a decent, clean neighborhood. I seized it because nightmares accompanied my pregnancy. I dreamed that I was combing my hair in front of the mirrored wardrobe, and out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that an old man was slowly rising from the couch. Gray-haired, with a long nose, his eyes covered with cataracts film. He was rising so slowly that the movements were almost imperceptible. I understood that I needed to run, but my legs stood still, and my hands continued to methodically raise and lower the comb. At some point, I woke up. With each passing day, the old man was getting closer to me before I could wake up. It is worth noting that I had these dreams almost every night, but only when I spent the night at home. My husband often went on night duty, and I gladly took the opportunity to spend the night at my mom's, who, out of the blue, began to insist on us moving back to them until buyers were found. But my husband, who lived separately and didn't want to hear about it, would not agree, especially since nightmares didn't bother him, and potential buyers were flocking to inspect the apartment attracted by the low price. Exhausted by nightmares, I issued an ultimatum. Then you live alone, live with my mom. Not wanting to stress me out, my husband agreed to a temporary move. A month later, we sold the apartment and immediately bought a brand new 2-bedroom apartment in a good neighborhood. When we finally moved to our new place, my mom explained why she started urging us to move. One day, she was waiting for me downstairs. I was supposed to come back from college. Her principle was don't snoop around other people's apartments without the owners, and got into a conversation with a woman from our building. She asked who lived where. And when my mom said that her daughter and son-in-law lived on the 5th floor in apartment 56, the neighbor twisted her face in disgust. "Oh, what a nasty place." My mom looked at her in bewilderment, waiting for more. It turned out that an old man who used to rent our apartment died there, and since he had no relatives, they only found out about him when the stench from his decomposing body reached almost the 1st floor. When they broke down the door, they found his remains on that very couch, his body decomposed beyond recognition, apparently eaten by his own cat. I have always been a lucky person. They say people like me are born lucky. Luck has always been on my side. From birth, I had good health. My childhood was cheerful and carefree. My parents loved me and spared nothing for me. Studying came easily to me, and my friends were kind and loved me. Then I successfully married for love a smart, educated, and wealthy man. I gave birth to 2 healthy and beautiful children, with whom I never had any problems. They grew up smart and obedient. With each passing year, my husband's business prospered, and he decided to buy a house in the South. I liked the idea. I would gladly send my mom and the kids there for the summer. In general, a suitable option quickly came up, and we went to see the house, which turned out to be even better than I expected. It was magnificent and stood very close to the water, surrounded by a wonderful fruit garden, with breathtaking views from the balcony. An elderly woman was selling the house and asked for money that was simply laughable. I was surprised then, but she explained that she urgently needed money, so the price was so low. When all the documents were done, the former owner asked for 3 days to gather her things. We didn't mind, as we were already the official owners of the house, and we planned to change the locks immediately after moving in. 3 days later, we came to our new home. It was empty, and the keys were in the lock. While inspecting the house, I discovered that in one of the rooms on the 2nd floor, there were glasses with soil on all the windowsills, with church candles stuck in them. In the same room, there was a mirror on the wall covered with a black cloth. In the other rooms, there was clutter in the corners. I can't describe my feelings when I tore the cloth off the mirror and threw it out the window. Eventually, we cleaned everything up, moved our things in, and started living in the new house. On the third day of staying in the new house, I had a strange dream. It was as if the former owner was sitting in our new chair, counting our money and stacking it neatly. Then she suddenly turned to me and said in a squeaky voice, "You bought it cheap, but I gave you my trouble." In the morning, I comforted myself that it was just a dream, and everything was fine in reality. But then we really started having troubles. Misfortunes poured down on our family as if from the horn of plenty. At my husband's work, endless inspections began, which greatly interfered with business operations. In principle, there was nothing to worry about. We conduct our affairs honestly, pay taxes, and make no mistakes. But when I started to reassure him, he said, "I feel so burdened, as if something is about to happen." Then we were hit with endless fines, many of which were unlawful. We filed lawsuits, but the case dragged on endlessly. My husband went on a business trip to another city, and in the evening, I received a call informing me that he had died suddenly of a heart attack. I immediately flew to that city to retrieve my husband's body, and there I received another terrible news. My eldest daughter drowned. My mother, feeling guilty for the death of her granddaughter, took my younger son to the neighbor, and then hanged herself. After all these tragedies, I started to fall ill, and it was getting worse day by day. Then the neighbor, feeling sorry for me, said, "Oh, you should have bought this house. So many misfortunes have already happened there. The mother of the woman who sold you this house hanged herself, and before that, she poisoned her husband. One of her sons drowned, the other died with his family in a car accident. From their large family, only that woman and her grandson from the elder son remained. Someone persuaded her to sell this cursed house along with the trouble while she and her grandson are still alive." "So you bought someone else's grief?" Only then did I remember about the soil in the glasses, about the 3 days requested by our former owner, about the mirror, and my ominous dream.